For 3 months, I had an affair with another married man, Matt, while I was still married to a woman and while Matt was still married to a woman.
I gotta admit, I didn't think this story would get any worse, but it does. Meet Jason. Not only did he cheat on his wife with another man, he cheated on his wife with another man while she was 4 months pregnant with their daughter. And that is just the beginning of their story.
For 3 months, I had an affair with another married man, Matt, while I was still married to a woman and while Matt was still married to a woman. It was during that period that I realized the intensity of emotion that was building during the 3-month period. It was with Matt that I first admitted that I was gay, and I felt that there was intense emotion that I kept hidden for the first 28 years of my life prior to admitting that I was gay, but that emotion paled in comparison to what I was experiencing during this 3-month period. I was married, after all, to my first true love, my wife, and I would see Matt during the day at work, and then we would do things often as couples in the evening, and we would see each other again. Then we would go to our respective homes. So the division and the pull was really incredible to describe. And I also realized that while I was still married and was still in love with my wife, my first, as I said, true love, I also was developing very strong emotions for Matt, and that just progressed and continued over the 3-month period. I knew that there would come a time when I could no longer physically or psychologically balance all that was occurring. I just simply didn't know how long I could hold on and when the time would come that I absolutely had to say something to my wife about not only the affair, but that also I was gay.
So now Jason is sharing his story on social media, and naturally people have a lot to say in the comment section. Wait, did you say wives? As in you were both married? Wait, Matt also had a wife? I feel so bad for her. Her time was wasted. And like I said, this is just the beginning of the story, because Jason's wife, who was 4 months pregnant, decided that she wanted Matt, the man that Jason had been cheating with, to deliver their baby.
Approximately 5 months after I admitted to my wife that I had had an affair with another man and that I am gay, the time for the birth of our daughter was finally here. The man with whom I had had the affair, Matt, who is also an OBGYN, was set to perform the delivery, all at my wife's request. Once he had made the necessary arrangements to ensure that he had coverage in the event of a medical emergency, we were ready for the delivery. And in that room were my wife, me, Matt, 2 nurses, and one of his medical partners, again, who was there in the event of some sort of medical emergency. And on that day at 10:20 p.m., Ella Grace was born. I cut the umbilical cord, and an entire new chapter that would forever change each of our lives officially began.
So of course, these videos are going viral all over social media, and a lot of creators have made reaction videos, and as you might imagine, most of the reaction was shock.
What?
Here.
You know these people that went to their grave carrying secrets, right? I miss the days where we could keep shit to ourselves. Because you ain't got to tell everybody. What the?
So after Jason and his wife divorced, it sounds like they were able to co-parent their infant baby girl pretty well.
After Ella's birth, she stayed with me and Matt, typically in Matt's apartment, a minimum of 3 nights a week. At the time, due to the setup, she would typically stay in a pack and play, and we really had the best time. We watched her grow and develop, and we learned to change lots and lots of diapers. At the same time, we would spend time with my wife, and we would do the things that a traditional family would do together. Ella knew no different, and this was just the beginning of her life where this would be the normal for her.
So a lot of people are asking, what's the purpose of Jason sharing these stories? Because a lot of these events happened in the early 2000s, and even earlier if you're talking about from the time that him and his wife met.
After admitting to an affair and coming out to my wife when she was 4 months pregnant, I knew that I had a lot of work to do on me. There was a lot that I needed to figure out as far as why I had made the decisions that I had made. And I started working with a licensed marriage and family therapist. And he asked me lots of questions that were very, very challenging, made me challenge myself. And one of the things that I also did while I was working with him that I personally found to be very helpful is I went and spoke to a graduate level course of his on human sexuality. And I would start my conversation there with exactly what had happened, that I admitted to my wife that I had had an affair, that it was with another man, and that I was gay. And I would stand in that classroom and I would watch the reaction of the students, and then I would be asked very difficult questions, oftentimes questions that I didn't even at that point have the answer to, but it really pushed me to think through a lot of what I had done and to learn to really grow from the entire events, or all of the events rather, that had occurred. And I then used those as a catalyst for so much change in my life that has continued even today, more than 2 decades later.
So fast forward 20 plus years later, Jason and Matt are now traveling and sharing their story on social media. And Jason's baby girl, Ella, is now 21, and they still have a good relationship. But what do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.